Good afternoon and welcome back into the TitleTown Rundown podcast here on YouTube alongside Kyler Quelch. I am Joey Matroni. We welcome you to episode 4 on this Monday, May 25th. On this Memorial Day, we'll get it started as we have been doing with the Boston Red Sox, as they are the Boston team that remains in season. Kyler, we talked about on Thursday's episode if the series sweep against the Royals would build into any sort of momentum for the Red Sox, and then they turn around and unfortunately got swept by the Minnesota Twins. And although it looked different on the field, it seems like just more of the same in the lack of ability to build anything and get anywhere higher than about 6 games below 500. Which kind of begs the question, when do you decide that this might not be your year and make some sort of changes? But first, let's talk about how those 3 games went. I mentioned a little bit about how it looked different, and the way it looked different is that pretty much for a consistent portion of this season, the pitching has been great, and the offense has really struggled to keep up. Whereas this series against Minnesota, the pitching struggled, as they did, ironically, in the first series against Minnesota. We saw Garrett Crochet get lit up in that first series, and then there were also some struggles on the pitching side, but especially in game one, that was the bullpen, and more specifically, Justin Slayton. Peyton Tolley put together a good performance in game one with 6 innings, 3 earned runs, and 9 strikeouts. But Justin Slayton came in and gave up 4 runs right after that on two-run home runs. And that was really his first bad outing of the year. Those were the first 4 runs he'd given up all year. And then the deflating loss that was in game one, I personally believe spiraled into what was the eventual sweep.
Yeah, listen, I'm kind of wondering if we should even be talking about the Red Sox right now and how much of a laughing stock it's been. But you know, it actually brings up another point that we haven't talked about to me, Joey, which is John Henry at the awards talking about how um how like people should be buying him beverages because of the expectation that they should because he's brought in titles to
Yes.
town. And well, I think that that is wonderful and bringing home, four titles. It also screams to me entitlement because, excuse me, what have you done the last 6 years? What have
Yeah,
you
that's it.
what have you done to keep improving this thing? If you want to go have margaritas on the beach in Florida, go ahead, but don't drag us down with it. And I think that this pitching issue this past weekend is a symptom of that because you don't have any support from your offense, so you're throwing your best pitchers out there in the relief of your starters who have been great through pretty much throughout the year with one or two bad starts, and you're starting to see fatigue from guys like Slayton who have been reliable all year. Then you send
Mhm.
down the kid in the Oviedo trade who
Tyler Samaniego.
who has been absolutely lights out for them. But you call up Guerrero, who's 35 years old, right-handed pitcher, who has an ERA of I might as well pitch in Little League, and it's just kind of it's these moves that we just as a fan base say, how can we get back to having consistent standards and reliable ownership?
Yeah, I agree with you on the Slayton front, as well as you saw Whitlock give up some runs in game three as well. He's been really strong throughout the season. He's the guy that's been right in front of Chapman for most of the year, especially when the Red Sox are winning games. But he comes in early in this one in the sixth inning for the first time this season, and I wouldn't be surprised if that had something to do with it. I'd be interested to see what he would have to say if asked that question. Does moving out of your routine as a reliever really affect how you are gonna pitch on that day? Whitlock gets in about 1 to 2 innings earlier than he normally would, and it leads to um, some runs given up. Not all of them were to him, as you were talking about. Were charged to him, I should say, as you were talking about earlier. Tyron Guerrero, he came in. There was some traffic on the base paths. Chad Tracy elects to go to Garrett Whitlock to try to get out of it. That unfortunately doesn't work with some hits in that inning. And in game three, with those runs that Whitlock surrenders, the Twins take a 6-4 lead. And then in both the eighth and ninth inning on the offensive side, if I can switch things up very quickly, the Sox had runners in scoring position in both the eighth and ninth inning, and were only able to push across one run in the bottom of the ninth after IKF put one off the monster. Connor Wong would have been the game tying run. He was thrown out at the plate. Now, there have been some sort of discussions on how his read of that ball was, but I think really what it comes down to is he was trying to score from first on a ball to left field, which is something that you don't really see that often. And this comes back to everything that has changed with the Red Sox this season already. Obviously, with the firing of Alex Cora, we had a whole new coaching staff, and our new third base coach, I should say, is Chad Epperson, who was the manager of the Portland Sea Dogs coming into the season, and he's moved on to that third base coach role with the Sox, and it might have been a send that he would regret later on. And I think he's also just trying to get used to being a third base coach with the Green Monster being right in front of them all the time.
So let me ask you this, Joey. Do you think fundamental baseball becomes a factor in all of this too?
I would say so. I mean, you look at one of the things we've talked about all season, and frankly, the Red Sox have done a better job of not striking out. They are better in that situation than they have been in past years, but in those late innings, you saw Wilson Contreras come up with runners on second and third in less than 2 outs, and he struck out for the second out. When really all you're looking to do is put the ball in play and score the run. That would have gotten you the 6-5 in the eighth, and then you have a chance to win it in the ninth. And with the one run that did score in the ninth, you end up being tied 6-6, and you don't know what happens in extra innings. But unfortunately, how it has gone, the Red Sox offense just really hasn't put them in enough situations to win the game. And it just so happens that in one of the series where the team does do a solid job of scoring runs, the pitching staff unfortunately can't back them up. And it really, in the 6 games that they've played against the Twins, they're 1-5. So, as shocking as it may seem, the
Against a team
Twins,
that's under 500, may I add.
as shocking as it does seem, exactly, the Twins have definitely had the Sox number as it goes so far this year.
You know what I think that speaks to? Fundamental baseball. Like, because, listen, I watched that Brian Bayo ground ball, or whatever you want to call it, liner, hit me in the glove, uh, oops and oops play, um, whatever you want to call it. I think we got to start taking grounders and pop flies on the mound
Hmm.
again because maybe the third base coach who's a double A manager could do that for him. I don't know. Maybe a fan could do that for him. I mean, at this rate, but you know, that was a little ridiculous, and it cost him a run. I mean, it's the little things. It's not even the big things, and I think it doesn't matter what players you have. if your system
Mhm.
isn't setting you up for success. And in past years, I
Mhm.
feel like we've had teams that had more complete teams, where you have to maybe go out and get one or two players. Right now, I feel like, and that's all you need, not a whole coaching staff, not a whole front management kind of thing. I feel like now they're in that situation where it's like ownership really needs to find the right guys to help build this thing along and develop it,
Mhm.
because they haven't always been great at developing players, but they used to just bring in the good players, and you would see teams that would win or at least make the playoffs. And now you're seeing teams that are just competing with the Kansas City Royals for who's worse, or getting clobbered by the Twins who aren't even at 500. Are you
Yeah,
kidding me?
there's no sort of consistency that we've seen, especially this season, and a lot of it is gonna eventually track back to the front office, no mat and but again, they're gonna come back and say that we're not the ones on the field, so it does come down to the players. And I don't fault
I
Chad
thought
Tracy.
Craig Breslow,
Um
John Henry, Sam Kennedy.
I was going to Craig Breslow because this is something that I wanted to have a discussion about as it relates to the Red Sox. You look at where they are right now after the sweep to the Twins. They're 22-30, so 8 games below 500. And my question becomes, if you really don't think that this is your year, one of the changes that still can be made is the firing of Craig Breslow. Most people are probably gonna like that. I'm sure there's gonna be a um, a section of people who believe in the analytics of baseball, but a lot of the fans in Boston are truly gonna see that they really haven't gotten where they needed to get to in these past couple of years, and they've underperformed, and things need to be changed. And where I'm going with this is I think it would be a good idea to fire Craig Breslow sooner rather than later, specifically prior to the trade deadline, so that you can either he doesn't have any sort of say on what happens towards the deadline, and the more you lose, the more likely you are to sell off some of the veterans that we've talked about throughout the season, in Sonny Gray and Aroldis Chapman. But by making that decision on whether or not to keep or get rid of Breslow, then that leads you in a direction where you know what you have to do. And if firing is the decision, doing it before the trade deadline allows somebody else to make those decisions.
Absolutely. But here's my question to you, Joey. Is ownership at least good enough to, or at least responsible enough to know who to hire or who to bring in for this? Because we've seen this time and time again. And I just don't think we've seen any consistency on who's in there. And I want to see them bring in somebody who can kind of sustain it a little bit. Sure, you're going to have up years and down years, but
Hmm. But
who would you bring in?
I'm not really sure who that's going to be. I would presume that from a public relations standpoint, if they do decide to make the decision to move on from Breslow, maybe they look at someone who has a connection to the Red Sox in the past. Now, Ben Charrington's a guy that's been in the front office for the Red Sox before and has had success. But he's also having success building something over in Pittsburgh. So
Jed
there's no
Hoyer. I love Jed Hoyer.
there's no way to say for sure that that move would be made. But I think that making a move to get rid of Breslow and firing someone in previous connection to the Red Sox would be sort of a last ditch effort by the front office to get somewhat back on the good side of the fan base.
Well, I think Craig Breslow belongs in the bullpen at this point because you think he can at least pitch a little bit better than Guerrero. Keep saying Gutierrez. His name's Guerrero, but uh, same difference. I mean, at this point, it doesn't really matter. He's not that good. Breslow might as well start pitching. But in
I
all
th- I
in all
think that
sorry.
I think that one of the things that is intriguing about Guerrero is the velocity that he brings. He can throw triple digits, but in the early times that we've seen him in this season, his ERA is over 10, and he's struggled to find the zone at times as well, and that comes with velocity. And I'd wish I could say that he's young and has time, but he's 35,
We
so
already seen his track record. I mean,
we you don't know. It would be great if he could figure out a way to turn it around, and what a story it would be to be an impact arm at 35 years old for the first time,
I just don't see
uh,
it.
for a strong big league team. But what what more could Andrew Bailey and um, company do that somebody else hasn't already tried?
Yeah, and honestly, Joey, my kind of take on all of this is honestly finding somebody who's just competent. I think it's been a little bit of touch and go since Epstein left. But I wish we had kept Jed Hoyer around. He's been pretty good for the Cubs. Charrington was okay too, and he's starting to build something in Pittsburgh, which is a lower market team. But he's starting to build something there. Like those are
Yep.
guys that have come from this organization and been great. But
If they can keep them around too, looking at
that
Pittsburgh specifically, they've got cornerstones in Paul Skeens and Connor Griffin, who was called up. Mm,
yeah, they've been great. I mean, they've been great. I mean, they're showing promise there, and I
mhm.
think, but but I think the biggest mistake we ever made was getting rid of Dave Dombrowski
That
because
there's very much an argument for that because
Because,
he
because he is a winner. He's a winner. You know what? He will trade the farm to win the one or two championships. And you know what? I'm all for it. He was with the Tigers organization for years. Yes, he depletes it, and maybe he should have focused on rebuilding at times. But the first 3 years he was there, he made the playoffs. He won a championship. You
yeah, I
know,
mean it it becomes a cycle really when talking about Dombrowski because like you said, he's a very much win now focused president of baseball operations. So the farm system kind of goes on the back burner, and I think that that's why the Red Sox brought in Chaim Bloom shortly after that to kind of rebuild the farm system, and
which
then
it
you,
did sort of work at the minor league level.
in a way, it did because you have guys like Marcelo Meyer and Roman Anthony when he's healthy now contributing to the major league team. I think the
However,
one,
now you need it to translate to the major league roster.
and that's not then that really hasn't happened yet. I'm interested to see now, especially defensively. Marcelo Meyer got his first start at shortstop in Game 3 against Minnesota. And with Trevor Story being out 6 to 10 weeks with that sports hernia procedure that he just had, I don't really see Marcelo Meyer giving up that shortstop spot anytime soon. So it lets him kind of. I'd rather him get comfortable there at shortstop than play there for a couple weeks and then move back. So I think that would be best for him to kind of get more and more comfortable with that shortstop spot as the year goes on. But you don't really know where the Red Sox are headed, especially offensively. Now you don't really know what's next for Bayo? We went back to the opener role in his last start, which I have another thought on. I think that Giovanni Moran does significantly better out of the bullpen in the late innings, so I would look to possibly find another guy who can come out
Maybe
of.
Whitlock even if he wasn't unrested.
But I would say I wouldn't want to go to someone like Whitlock personally for that first inning because I think he's too valuable in in the um in the late innings, and it was the guy that it was when the Red Sox went to an opener under Alex Cora was Brennan Bernardino,
No,
who's now with the Colorado Rockies. But I would look to maybe find someone like that who can kind of do both in it,
I
not
think it's
really.
the guy they just sent down, Joey.
But you could argue that Samaniego might get that chance. That's also true. But he was doing great in his late inning spot as well, up until he gave up runs in two of his most recent starts, and then unfortunately, due to minor league options, he was the one that really got the hook back down to the minors. But I guess the other name that we can discuss, I don't know if you have thoughts on it or not, is Danny Coulomb. Coulomb
I thought about that.
just came back off of the IL and he came in the fifth inning after Gray only went four. So that's kind of a middle inning guy. And I think when everyone is strong, you have those late inning guys in Slayton, Whitlock, and Chapman are your seventh, eighth, and ninth inning relievers when everything sets up well. And then you've got Greg Weissert, who's really up and down, but I don't know if I want to go with him in the first inning.
No.
We don't really know what Guerrero is. I don't really know how long he's gonna.
Zach Kelly was the guy they sent down. See, Zach Kelly or Coulomb would be, or I don't know how to say his name, but Tyler. I think he's a good. I think those are your guys. Who
Yeah,
could start. San Domingo,
Samaniego.
Samaniego. Yeah, Samaniego.
There we
I
go.
think Samaniego would be a good one. I think Coulomb would be another one. Like, I think guys like that who are at least reliable, but maybe not late inning guys, and especially Coulomb. I mean, Coulomb's been a pitcher for a long time.
Yeah.
He was a guy I actually wanted the Red Sox to go get last year, and then they got him in the offseason when he was thinking about retiring. So maybe you
hmm
use him in the first inning. I don't know.
Yeah, that in general was a really interesting signing because that was really close to the start of. Actually, I believe he was signed during spring training, close to the start of the season, so he really wasn't ready to go. And then you mentioned before the show, Tommy Canley. He's a really interesting guy. He started the season on the minor down in Worcester on the with the Worcester Red Sox. Then um, asked for his release and then didn't get picked up on waivers, so ended up coming back here anyway. I would like to see him get another opportunity
See,
at the
and he's
major.
better than Guerrero because you know that he has a track record of being a good reliever in the majors.
Yeah, and the thing that we mentioned with Guerrero at the before we got on this afternoon, and I'll mention it now as well. Um, with him being 35 years old, he's out of options. So if that doesn't end up going well, he'll be designated for assignment, which would open up a roster spot. And when a bullpen guy goes down, you're most likely looking to replace him with another guy who can impact the bullpen. Um,
Yeah, I would have just liked to see Kane get the
we'll
spot right away.
we'll see if he does end up going in that spot at some point
What are
this
your
year.
thoughts on him?
No, I agree. I think that he, with that major league track record, deserves at least a chance to see if he can impact the major league bullpen. Does that happen soon. I don't really know because
I
that's
think
not
the
a.
one negative with him is his control. I
Hmm.
was reading an article. I forget what article I was reading a couple days ago, but I was reading an article and he, I think his control's been a little off, but then again, he is a guy who has been pitching very well. And I know Guerrero has as well at the minor league level, but I look at Guerrero as like a 4A type of guy versus a major league guy. I look at Canely as a major league guy.
Hmm. All right. So to finish it off, let's go quickly to the next series that the Red Sox will be getting started um tomorrow as they are off today. They will be getting going with a series against the Atlanta Braves once again, seeing them twice in quick succession for a 3-game set, which will begin tomorrow at 6:45, and then Wednesday at 6:45, and Thursday at 4:10. So we might film Thursday's episode right before the Red Sox get going in uh game 3 against Atlanta. So we'll do our best to preview that if that's the direction
I
we
got
go.
Atlanta. I got Atlanta. The best team
Well,
in baseball.
the, what I wanted to start off with, and I'm gonna pull it up here, um, is the pitching match, the probable pitching matchups for this series. Let's. All right, I'll go to my phone because for some reason I'm not logged into my MLB app on my
Sure.
computer right now.
Let, let's do it.
But
I was just picking on the
okay.
team. But yeah, absolutely. I think they're in for it, They got to dig deep.
Yeah, I mean they got they got a fantastic start out of Peyton Toley in the last series against the Braves. And so they'll have in game 1 the Sox will have Ranger Suarez going, who comes in with a 2-2 record, a 2.4 ER and a 2.4 ERA. He'll be opposed on the Atlanta side by Spencer Strider, who comes in with a 2-0 record and an ERA at exactly 3. Um, I
Ooh,
believe
good matchup. I like that.
that should be a real interesting one. Obviously Suarez has had a good year, especially statistically, but there have also been kind of ups and downs that go along with that. He was taken out early of the Houston start due to injury. Missed one rotation, but was back after an elongated break. Um, and but on the positive side, he's also had that 8 innings of shutout ball against Toronto earlier on in the year, and then in game 2, we've got Conley early coming in with a 4-2 record with a 3.33 ERA, opposed by Bryce Elder, who is 4-2 with a 1.97 ERA. Um, Bryce Elder pitched in the game that got away from Brian Bayo in the finale of the series against Atlanta. So some of the pressure, I would have to assume, got taken off of Bryce Elder, but he's been almost untouchable this year with a 1.97 ERA and 60 strikeouts. And then this is a really intriguing matchup in game 3. We have the former Red Sox and Chris Sale going up against the lefty young stud in Peyton Toley, which is one that
Chris
I'm.
Sale's gonna win. Chris Sale's gonna win. I know it. It's his
it's
former
one.
team. Oh my goodness.
It's one that I'm very excited to watch, even
He
if we
loves
do
pitching
have
in Boston. Are you kidding me?
even if we do have to give Sale the advantage just because of how long
Sale with
uh,
10 plus strikeouts and 7 innings pitched. Uh, should I say anymore? Can you throw a baseball at the ownership window?
We'll
Can
find
you
out.
do that?
But I
Yeah.
think what this is going to come down to is how much success the pitching has in this series. Can they bounce back from some of the struggles that they had against Minnesota and channel some of the success that they had against Kansas City? But looking at this Atlanta series, it's going to be tough. Obviously, the
Those three
goal is
pitchers are great.
absolutely, and it's going to be tough to even win the series, even if you drop one of them. But it comes down to how well can the pitching do, because they're gonna have Ronald Acuna coming back. Matt Olson's the guy that they have to worry about. Drake Baldwin, the young catcher slash designated hitter for um, the Braves, I believe, homered in 2 of the 3 games in the previous series in Atlanta. So he's a guy that they're going to have to keep their eye on. Ozzy Albies is always a strong player. Michael Harris can get the job done when you need it. So there are a lot of guys to keep an eye on in that Atlanta lineup. And Peyton Tony is going to be looking to do what he did a lot in his 8 inning victory in the last series against Atlanta, and that was induced weak contact. And I wonder if that's going to be what the strategy is going to be pitching staff wide. This series against Atlanta is looking less to make the perfect pitches for the strikeouts, but looking to place pitches in areas where Atlanta's going to have trouble getting to them, and then it ends up in a lot of ground balls, pop flies, things like that.
What do you think they should do offensively?
I think that if it stays close, if the games don't get away with you, you have to go back to doing your best to be fundamentally sound. That could be bunting guys over when you need it, stealing an extra base when you can, especially um, Sandy Leone's gonna play some. Another former Red Sox is gonna probably play some catcher in this series. Um, I know he's a guy that Red Sox fans are familiar with, but now on the older side, I would hope that some of our guys, if they can get on base, will be able to get some extra bases on him. And I think that you need to do whatever you can to kind of scratch across runs and see if you can win a series without having to score a ton of runs each game.
Yeah, like you said, you can't be willing, or you can't be expecting 100 runs. You just aren't, because Strider's pitching, Elder's pitching, Crisell is pitching. I not to brag, but I do have Bryce Elder in my fantasy league, and he's been phenomenal. But again, I do think that, and Chris Sale pitching in Boston, we know what that's like. He loves the Boston energy. He embraces it. He
Yeah,
enjoyed moving back home, to Georgia, Florida and Georgia and all that stuff, down south. But I think for him though, like, this is a game where he wants to put on a show for the fans. He's going to turn it up. And I just don't see them winning 3 of those games, or all 3 of those games, or even 2 of them. I see them maybe winning the first one. Maybe. Um After that, it's going to be touch and go, because the guys that you're going against. Elder has been one of the younger arms for the Braves that's really emerged, and then you have Chris Sale, who I wish we didn't have to go against. But
yeah. We were lucky
you
enough
know,
to miss him in the first one, but we didn't get lucky enough a second
yeah,
series.
but facing those 3 guys, that reminds me of like playing in the World Series, Joey. And I feel, and looking at how we're lined up, not that I think that our young guys are bad. I love the young guys. I love Tolley and Early, but it may be a
Mhm.
little too early for that, if you will. Just because uh you're going up against three of the best pitchers in MLB baseball. Like how do you really match up against that when you don't have your ace? And then Suarez has been a little all over the place. I'd love to see Crochet, Suarez, and Gray pitch in that series.
Yeah, and I mean
And
it's not always gonna be that way, and I think Suarez has done enough to kind of feel better after that after the abbreviated start in Houston. So they're gonna be relying on him to hopefully go at least 6 innings, and then you end up with that back end of the bullpen, like you had in the game that you won in the Atlanta series, where Chapman made the crazy play after the ground ball up the middle, deflected off of his foot. He got it back and flipped to Contreras at first for the out. You're gonna be looking for the a strong 6 innings from the starters so that you can get to that back end of the bullpen. And it just so happens now that there's going to be a little bit more pressure on Whitlock and Slayton, because they're going to be thinking about the runs that they gave up in the series against Minnesota. And you just hope that that is a one time thing and they can bounce back. But from a Red Sox fan standpoint, you didn't expect Whitlock and Slayton to both have bad outings in the same series.
yeah, and I honestly think that's just wear and tear. I do.
Yeah.
I don't think it's their roles either because I think Croce or not Crochet, sorry, Whitlock. Both are named Garrett, but Whitlock has been a guy who's been able to go multiple innings before. He's been
Yep.
able, so I don't really think it's he came in an inning early or anything like that. I think it's just how much him and Slayton have been used because their offense has been horrible until
Yeah.
the last couple of series. So
And I mean, you have to expect that
you're not always gonna have a good outing. Come on
no
now.
no reliever is ever gonna end the season when he pitches consistently with a 0 ERA. So you have to understand that runs are gonna be scored on even your best relievers, and it just so happens that it was bad luck that it happened in the same weekend and contributed to two of the losses.
It is
But
bad luck, but it also attributes to what you were missing for majority of the season.
yeah, exactly. All right, but we'll be sure to talk about the first two games on Thursday afternoon, and then we'll preview game three as well. But let's move on to kind of wrap up Merrimack Baseball's end of the season. They unfortunately took their second loss of the MAC tournament to Marist, which officially eliminated them uh, after the Ryder loss that we talked about last episode. And things got away early for the Warriors, then they battled back, and then
They
Maris kind of
lost
put
in
it,
the eighth inning.
and then Maris kind of put it away in the eighth inning as well. But the Red Foxes of Maris got it started with 5 in the first. The Warriors clawed back with 6 of their own in the fifth, which made it 7-6 at the time after Maris scored 2 in the top half of the fifth. Um, Merrimack answered back with 2 in the sixth, and then, as Kyler alluded to, Maris put it away in the eighth with 6 more runs to come away with a final score of 13-8. But they would also eventually be eliminated as Ryder would take down Fairfield to win the MAC baseball championship.
Listen, here's my thought on it, Joey. We weren't used to this level of competition. It's just an honor to be here, and it is tough to lose a game like that, especially when we were up at one point. And I think in both of the games that we lost, seventh inning against Ryder and then the eighth inning against Marist, our pitching just wasn't up to snuff, and we needed to play fundamental baseball in those later frames of the game, and that's just also the name of the game. So I think they can kind of work on their pitching staff, continue to work on replacing some of the seniors in the lineup, but certainly I think they'll certainly still be competitive, and they just kind of need to focus on pitching, I think, and to be able to compete more.
Yeah, and I think that all in all, this still has to be looked at in a positive light. As you said, this was uncharted territory um, for Merrimack Baseball, and I think we'll talk a lot about Merrimack athletics in the coming weeks, and we'll actually soon enough we'll do a dedicated episode to some of the improvements with Merrimack athletics as a whole, and we'll get into some of that deeper later on in the coming weeks.
Yeah, but I do want to say that I'm proud of Merrimack baseball, and keep your heads held high. You fought till the end. So and Coach Murphy did a great job this year of getting the boys to where he got them. So
Yeah, absolutely. And then we'll look at it more in a wider lens. Hopefully sometime next week as well. But let's move on now to the NBA playoffs and conference finals. Those two on two different ends of the spectrum. We'll start it off on the Eastern Conference side, as the Knicks will have an opportunity to finish off a sweep of the Cleveland Cavaliers after getting their third consecutive win in the series, and 3-0 deficit's not a very easy thing, but from a Cleveland standpoint, you're looking to just win one game at a time. But the New York Knicks, as much as it pains me to say as a Celtics fan, have been so good that I don't think Cleveland's going to be able to win four straight games.
no, I think the only team that really would have been able to beat them is the Celtics, if we're being honest. If the Celtics had all the pieces that they needed and didn't collapse, uh, like in terms of talent wise, because look, I like Donovan Mitchell a lot. I do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like James Soffin at all, and I actually think that I think that trading Garland could have been a mistake for them actually, because defensively, who's going to stop Brunson? Yeah, look, you got to take a shot in the dark, but like I just don't think that trade really made a lot of sense to them. But that's just my opinion of it. I think Brunson's been phenomenal in two of the
Yep.
three games. If I remember right, he's had 30. He had 30 in the last game, and then in the first game he had like 40 some odd points. So, and in game three, Ananobi and um
Ananobi had 21 in game three, and Mikal
yeah,
Bridges had 22 to go
yeah, Bridges,
with,
yeah.
with Brunson's 30.
Yeah,
And
so and their top five are pretty good.
yeah,
Um,
I think that's a
Cat,
benefit. It's
Cat,
a it's a benefit. Sorry, Kyler. It's a
absolutely.
benefit. It's a benefit to the Knicks to have as deep of a team as they do, and I think that that's a big reason. Again, I don't love making the comparison to the Celtics, but it's a big reason as to why they were able to win the title in 24. And along with some of the luck that they got in terms of injuries. But anyway, the Celtics team was talented enough to win the title either way, and I think that that's a lot of the reason why we think that the Knicks are in a good spot, because
Yep.
they would have had. what we believe to be a competitive series against the Celtics, but unfortunately we didn't get that because Philadelphia got the best of Boston, and now
Well, I
um
also think that the big thing would have been a problem too, like the center thing, because I
yeah.
think Carl Anthony Towns would have went to town on them in one game, and I think that I just like he's not quite the same player he used to be, and maybe he takes a little bit off too because you have Jalen Brunson who's been balling out,
Yep.
but like he could go to town against those Boston big men. No offense, but it's like you need that center. You need a
it
Bam Adebayo. You need somebody who can just play that center position pretty well. Somebody's floating Time Lord again. I love Time Lord, but I don't want him to be my number one center because he's gonna get hurt.
I don't I that's in it. We can do more
Sorry, I did see an article about that, so I
yeah,
brought
I was
that
gonna
up.
we'll do more Celtics off season stuff as more news
But
comes.
certainly,
But
when we're talking about the Knicks, I do think that they're going to be at least in in the title series because I do think there's no way Cleveland's coming back. I actually say bring out the brooms tonight. And if I'm Cleveland, what do I want the future of my franchise to look like? Because James Harden, who I often refer to as Soften, is
he
is is not he's older. And when he's not shooting, he's not worth it. So what do you want? Like you got to get somebody a little bit younger, in my opinion. And I really did like Darius Garland. For more, he's better defensively than Harden, and I like Evan Mobley. I like Jared Allen. I like Donovan Mitchell, but they need to add more, and not just like three and pray to God on D. You need to have a little bit better defense. You need to have toughness. You need to have clutchness, and that's what the New York Knicks have in Jalen Brunson and company. So
yeah, James Harden's a really interesting guy to look at because after he spent from 2012 to 2021 with Houston, 21 22 he was with Brooklyn, 22 23 he was with Philadelphia, before spending 3 seasons with the Clippers, and now after that Garland trade is a part of this postseason run. But as you said, he comes in 36 years old. Is he a part of the future? I don't really know. I mean, I think you have your franchise guy in Donovan Mitchell, but
I agree with you.
he seems like a guy that needs a running mate, and I don't think that James Harden is the running mate of the
I
future.
don't think he can run anymore, Joey. I don't think he's in shape enough to run uh, with with Mitchell, but it's one of those things. Sorry, I am a little bit brutal, but I do think he does need a younger running mate, and who that is, I don't know.
Yeah.
And we can talk more off NBA off season later on, but I'm just
Mhm.
kind of saying I think he is missing that piece.
Yeah, I mean, we'll obviously get into more major off-season news once the playoffs conclude, and I think that's kind of be our strategy going forward. Is we'll continue with all of the playoff talk, and then as off-season news comes along, we'll add that in as well. But to finish off this afternoon show, let's go. Actually, wait, I got ahead of myself.
You got to do the Western Conference.
I got ahead of myself because this one's actually much more interesting to talk about. We've got a series in the Western Conference after the Spurs win game 4 in San Antonio. They knotted up at 2. Victor Wembanyama shines once again with 33 points leading the way for San Antonio, but they knew that things needed to change, and what changed most for them in the win was their defense, only allowing 82 points to Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and the Oklahoma City Thunder.
What I heard on ESPN too was the defense that he had on, or that Castle had on SGA, and only
Hmm.
allowing 19 points. That's huge.
That
And
is huge.
at the rim you had, of course, you have Wemby
Yep.
at the rim, and he stopped a lot of the guys who get to the rim and stuff like Holmgren and whatever. But who I liked in Gonzaga, but we could also talk about that later too. That's a different story. But listen. I really think that this San Antonio team is building something. But I also think this is a series because it's tied at 2. We knew it was at least going 6. It might even go 7 if it keeps going this way. I love a back and forth series, and I think whoever wins this series is going to probably win the chip.
They have a good shot to win the NBA title. I agree with you. Because
Both
we're
these
in
teams
that
are young too.
we were so that plays a role in it. I think that the Knicks might be the more experienced team, but again, this version of the Knicks have yet to be to the NBA Finals. So that'll be an interesting situation
Oklahoma City won last year.
if it arises. Oklahoma City got to got there and won last year, as you said. So it's familiar territory for them. But if San Antonio does come out on top, it'll be interesting to see how two teams with very little finals experiences finals experience as the rosters are currently constructed um, play out.
I actually love the toughness and determination of the Spurs, though. San Antonio Spurs. They seem tough. They want to
Hmm.
win. They seem hungry.
Yeah, I think that Wembanyama has really changed the culture there. He
And what about
has
that shot from half court, Joey?
that was one of the more impressive shots to end the half. Obviously, us following the Celtics a lot, we know that Peyton Pritchard loves to take those shots at the
Yeah,
end of the
but
half.
this guy is like 10 feet tall, and he's
Yeah,
sucking it up there.
exactly. And he wanted the ball basically as soon as it was inbounded. He called back for the ball, and he used his height to his advantage. He got to half court, and it almost looked like a jump shot. Um,
It literally looked like he was just standing shooting a long free throw there, like
yeah.
nothing happened.
It's rare that you see a half court shot go nothing but net, but that's exactly what happened with that one. But just to go back on the culture aspect of it really quickly, if I could, he's brought a different energy, and obviously being a number one pick does that. But he's even brought the celebration of banging in the drum after every win, which they unfortunately can't do in the postseason, but they switch it to one of the, part of their pregame ceremony. But he's done a great job getting the crowd fired up, and the people of San Antonio seem like they believe that they can get to the finals and win the finals. We grew up in the era of Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan was in attendance for the game yesterday, sitting next to Greg Popovich. But Wembanyama trying to usher in a new era of Spurs basketball and get that started with a title.
It must be fun for those guys to watch too. But
Hmm.
I also think they created that culture, and Wembanyama is kind of doing his younger iteration of it. But you know, like when you talk about Spurs basketball, it really does start with what Popovich did for all those years, and Tim Duncan as well. And but what I'm interested in is why is the league so lame that they can't even let it happen in the postseason? Let the man bang his drum. Like, come on now. That's how
Yeah.
lame the NBA is. Oh, I'm sorry. That's gonna offend somebody. Oh yeah, whoops. You can't even touch anybody. That's a foul for just tapping them on the fingertip. And he's got a flop. So yeah, you know that's how sick of the NBA I get because this isn't the '80s anymore. We need Bill Lambier and Larry Bird going at it again.
Yeah.
No, I mean we need a little bit of entertainment. I think no, I mean hey, I love the energy, and I think that's what you get from a younger team. To your point, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that I would argue that they're going to be hungrier than Oklahoma City just because they haven't been there yet.
Oh, they
Obviously,
won it. Yeah,
Oklahoma,
absolutely.
Oklahoma City is going to be um, motivated to try to go back to back, obviously. But I think the type of game that San Antonio just played shows you that they brought it to another level and how much they want to um, get over the hump and get to the finals and give it their all.
Gil just um looked devastated in his post game interview. You
Mm,
know, I I feel like they kind of took the soul of Oklahoma City a little bit. I'm interested to see if they can bounce back or not. One
yeah.
thing that I think was actually really interesting too, according to ESPN, I didn't put this in there, but I remember it from watching a little bit of Sports Center. Thank you, Sports Center. But yeah, my computer wouldn't let me watch the game because it was technically a Boston channel. It hasn't adapted yet to Vermont, but don't worry, it will. Just have to give it time. But so I was looking at the stat, and they scored or the Thunder scored their lowest points since 2021, like in a
Wow.
single game. That's the lowest amount of points they've gotten in a single game since 2021 when they were rebuilding. Since
Mm-hmm.
they had a bunch of nobodies and they were just collecting picks. So that says a lot. You know, in the last 5 years, they haven't had a game that low. That is the lowest.
Mm-hmm.
And they look devastated. They really did. So I am interested to see if they can bounce back in the next game. If not, I think San Antonio is onto something there.
Yeah, I would say so too, and I'm really interested to see how either of these teams would match up with who we believe to be the Knicks, barring a miracle from
Nope,
Cleveland.
not happening. I'm telling you right now, James doesn't have it anymore.
But if they're still in the series by the time we film our next episode, then we have something to talk about. But we'll finish it off with the NHL playoffs. The Vegas Golden Knights took a 3-0 lead in their series against the Colorado Avalanche in the Western Conference Finals after they stormed back, um, scoring 5 unanswered goals to win the game 5-3 after Colorado got it started quickly with 3 goals of their own. Vegas's home crowd obviously not thrilled about that, but they bounce right back. Get 3 goals in the second period to tie it up after Colorado gets their 3 in the first, and Vegas wins the game 5-3, and they're on the doorstep of the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, I watched period number three because I was like, oh, they're right back in this thing. I looked at the score and it was like 3-0, and I'm like, oh no.
Mm.
Then it was 3-1. Then I look, it's 3-3 at the end of the second, and I'm like, I gotta watch this. And I turn it on, and I see that they came back from 3-0, and not only that, Mark Stone at his return. He's
Yeah,
he's well known to Vegas fans at this point as he carried them kind of in their last finals run. Um,
he,
and
he found
and
the back of
old
the net in his
reliable, old
return.
reliable with the power play goal that got them started.
Yeah,
It's like
that
it's
one
like
was
that same story over again.
the goal by Stone was set up on a beautiful pass by Mitch Marner,
Oh yeah,
and
Marner. You know what? Marner has been known as a choker, like
yeah,
because he was in Toronto for so long. But what a pass! I mean,
yeah,
you know what? He has really stepped up. I think he really wants to show that he can do something in the playoffs
yeah.
because it didn't really work with Matthews and Nylander, but um, they'd always get eliminated a little too early. But Marner looks really good. He really does. And um, And I thought that tripping penalty, there was a good acting job done on the Colorado side. I forget who he tripped up, but it was like the NBA where the guy flops. He kind of flopped. It was an acting job. And boy, Marner got upset, and Tortorella was mad at him. And
Yeah.
it was kind of a theater. But
Jack Eichel was looking for another call later in the game too. He was looking for a hook. He
oh,
didn't
yeah.
get that. That almost led to a um, goal there as well.
But what I have to say about this game in general is just the the resilience of this team. Like they bounce back like it's nothing. But then I looked it up. There are only 8 guys on this roster who have not won a Stanley Cup.
Hmm.
Like they've all done it. A lot of them have done it before. And the ones who haven't have been to the playoffs. So it's like, you have a lot of veterans on that team. That Stone light touch too to hurdle to win the game.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that light touch at the blue line. All he does is just a soft little touch. It's not the hardest pass you've ever seen. Just a little redirect right onto the stick of hurdle. He doesn't even have to slow down or anything. He just goes full speed, a little bit of deking around guys, a little puck control, and
Yep.
just right into the back of the net. And Hurdle, who was one of my candidates for the Bruins to trade for 2 years ago, we'll talk about that later in the offseason, was the one who scored the game winner. But, that Mark Stone return was huge because he got a goal and an assist. Hurdle
Yep.
looked good. A lot of the Howden scored, scored as well. So, like, they have a group of guys that really are just fueled to win. And one thing that I saw them do at the beginning of the third period very well, wear down Colorado, put the body to them.
Hmm.
And they're not afraid to do that, and they're not afraid to win those little battles either. And I think that is the key between winning games and coming up a little bit short. Cale
Yeah.
McCarr made his return as well and was a little shaken up.
Hmm.
McKinnon went down, and on that
That's
power play,
that'll be interesting to take
he
a look at.
on that power play, he was just standing there. It was like, do you need a sled, buddy? Because you're having a hard time skating around. It was
Mhm.
it was one of those things where it's like he was out there because he wanted to be out there, but
And then he noticed he
he
didn't
wasn't
have his
doing it.
normal burst, and then was like, "Okay, I need to get off the ice for the betterment of my team." But yeah, you mentioned Brett Howden earlier. That was his goal was his 10th goal of the postseason. So he's on a roll right now that I'm sure Vegas fans are very pleased with, and they look like they're in a um good spot to make it back to the
Carter
Cup
Hart had
final.
30 saves.
Yeah. With all of that, they look like they're in a good spot to get back to the Cup final.
Yeah,
And
it's similar to Cleveland and in the Knicks,
yep,
actually, where
and
you see a talented team, but
yep,
then you see a team that is just motivated.
they're hot, and sometimes that's what you need. Is
Sometimes it's
you?
the hot teams and not the skilled
Yep.
teams.
Mm-hmm. You got hot at the right time, and you're using that momentum. Um, we mentioned we mentioned in the last episode, and it was up on social media yesterday as well. The impact that John Tortorella has made, and the new voice seems to have made a real difference
He is
for
getting them fired up.
Vegas, and we'll finish it off now. Going to the closer series after Nikolai Ehlers won it for Carolina in overtime. Kyler, let me get your thoughts on the Eastern Conference Finals.
I think it's going to be lackluster compared to the Western Conference, in the sense that I think either one of those teams could win. I see Carolina winning it now that they've kind of come back a little bit, but I don't think it really matters who wins the Eastern Conference because I think Vegas is going to run through them, whoever it is. Vegas is so hot,
Yep.
and Montreal kind of snapped Carolina's momentum to
Mm-hmm.
where they're not really steamrolling anymore. And Yeah, I think Carolina would be the team that would be a little bit better for them in terms of a matchup because on paper they're a really good team. But it's always the hottest team in the playoffs that gets over that hump. Gets a little banged up, but keeps going. Because guys at this point aren't really healthy. In hockey, you got to understand, guys are limping, guys are struggling, but it's about who can keep it going.
Yep.
And honestly, I mean, Carolina getting that overtime win, Frederick Anderson really stepped up. I do have to say that he stepped up since leaving Toronto because Boston had his number for 3 or 4 years straight. But I like to mention that every once in a while for Bruins fans when they remember the good old days. But of beating up Frederick Anderson a little bit. But he's been solid for them. And he might be better than Carter Hart at times, but I still think that Vegas just has that will and drive, and they're just hot. So I think whoever wins this series is really going to have their hands full with Vegas. I,
Yeah, but they gotta get through each other first.
yeah, and
Um,
I honestly think Carolina will, but I think it might take 6 or 7 games.
yeah, and I think that this is a new challenge for Carolina that they really haven't faced. We talked about going into it that they hadn't lost a game
And then
heading
they lost a
into.
game, and then they almost lost another one.
Yep. So
And Frederick Anderson got better after that first game. He was on fire, and Ehlers is a good player. Like they have a lot of great players,
yeah, they do, and that's for sure.
but you need to be getting pucks to the net. The young goalie for the Canadiens, I mean, he's okay, but you need to get pucks on the net to win the game.
Yep.
That's my key for Carolina.
Obviously, Dobish, the Montreal goalie, played a huge role in getting the Game 7 win over Buffalo for Montreal to move on, but he's got a new challenge going up against Carolina, and it will for sure be a competitive series all the way through. The winner tonight in Game 3 will take a 2-1 lead and have uh, home ice advantage for the remainder of, or for the next portion of the series, I should say, and we'll be sure to give an update on that. We'll be back on Thursday afternoon for the next episode of the Titletown Rundown. Once again, he is Kyler Quelch. I am Joey Matroni. Thank you for watching.